Was Anime Adventures worth the wait? Did its long-anticipated arrival finally quench that never-ending thirst and bottomless void that was left within the anime tower defense community? Or was the game not very good and the rose-tinted glasses are starting to wear off? Well, that's exactly what I want to talk about in this video. And when addressing a question like this, it's a real loaded question. You kind of got to be careful with what you say here. There are two very extreme spectrums. There are two sides to the story, right? One group of people think the game is overglazed and most of the players are blinded by nostalgia. Another group of people will play this game to their heart's content no matter what and never acknowledge any of the faults that the game actually has. And although I do like this game, I'll go more into detail on that later, it's far from perfect. So what I want to do in this video is give some of my personal suggestions as to what could be improved on the game, and also addressing the question, was AA worth the wait? Let's start with the latter. How long was this game in development for? Because that question, once it's answered, will really help us determine whether this was worth waiting X amount of time for. The community consensus is that this game was in development for a year. And before I made my video on this topic, I decided to try and ask one of the developers from Anime Adventures if they could answer my question. I told them, hey, I'm going to make this video and I wanted to ask you a question. How long was this game in development for? Was it really in dev for a year? Or was it more like a month? Was it more of a spontaneous thing? And this is what they responded with. I really can't say. What I will say, people don't really understand the main thing. Getting legal help and remodeling things isn't some overnight thing. Shout out to the dev for actually responding to my question, and it is pretty obvious devs can't just tell the general public anything that they want to hear. There are things that they just can't say, so that's completely understandable. But from the outside looking in, right, the way that I see it, I don't think they necessarily had 12 entire months to dump into the development time for this game. I think that legal battles can definitely take a while, especially when it's something on the same scale as Anime Adventures, one of the biggest games on the Roblox platform just in general, right? They were averaging hundreds of thousands. Well, right now they're averaging over 100k players. Back in their glory days, before they got taken down, I think they'd peak at like 60 or 70k on update days, which was still a lot by Roblox standards. Obviously, we're not scratching the doors of games like Fish or Dress to Impress or Adopt Me or Blox Fruits, but you get what I'm trying to say. This is one of the biggest games on the platform, and it is the biggest game in terms of anime tower defense games. In that genre, they are the king of that genre. They were the most popular ones back then. They are currently the most popular ones now. So when it comes to a game of that scale getting sued and getting taken down, I imagine the legal fees, the process of getting everything situated, being able to put the game back up, and trying not to get sued, I assume, is gonna take a while. Maybe, well, not maybe, that definitely is one of the reasons why this game was down for as long as it was. I don't think that the Anime Adventures owners or developers were just sitting there twiddling their thumbs for 9 months, or 12 months, my bad. But I also don't think they had the opportunity to start working on the game until they got the green light from the owners that, hey, we're not going to get sued, we can put this back up, and our work won't be in vain. We can actually work towards putting the game back up. So, do I really think this game was in dev for 12 months? Absolutely not. I don't think 12 months is I don't think it's gonna take you 12 months to remodel some units, add some quality of life features, add an event. A lot of the foundation for this game was already here to begin with, so I don't think the game was in dev for a year. People were waiting for a year. That's a very, very common misconception. People waited for a year. The game was not being worked on for 12 months. Now, once again, take my opinion with a grain of salt. This is pure speculation on my end. I really, really don't think this game was being worked on for a year straight. And I don't think it's ridiculous to say that. I'm sure a lot of people are going to agree with me on that. But people were waiting for well over a year. I don't know if it was exactly under or over a year. We're just going to say a year for the purposes of this video. People waited a year for this. And in their minds, the developers were also prepping for an entire year to release the game, which I don't think is the case. So when you ask me the question, was this game worth the wait? I am going to say yes. And yes, because there's two different crowds of people that I think the game was worth the wait for. Number one, for the veterans. I don't really consider myself an AA veteran. I'm more of a new gen. I'm level 75. My best unit was Escanor, Metal Knight. I didn't even grind for the super good units like Doflamingo, Boros. I never got Ainz. I never had a unique. In fact, off topic here, I got my first ever unique a couple hours ago on Poseidon. Like, I traded for a Poseidon, I was just rolling on him, got a unique. You know, God is good, God is great. Now, I don't think Poseidon is super meta anymore. A lot of people are telling me that he's outdated. But, like, I don't really care, bro. Like, a unique unit is a unique unit. He's going to be useful. But sorry about that little tidbit off-topic rant. Back to the more pressing matters. Was AA worth the wait? I think yes. And the longer the time goes on, the more people are going to agree with me on this. This might be a bit of a hot take here, as I'm doing it right now when there's still a lot of ongoing debate and commotion over whether this game is even worth playing anymore. But you got to look at it like this, right? To all the returning players, they are getting to use most of their new units. I know that some of the units were just outright gone and disappeared from people's inventories, or all the My Hero units are just gone. But for returning players, I think that they're going to enjoy this. They obviously are enjoying this. They get to use most of their old units. All of their progression that they spent all that time grinding for is now back to them. So for returning players, I'd say it was worth the wait for them. For new players, I would also say this was worth the wait. Because for a new Anime Adventures player, the amount of things that you have to grind for and have to do in the game is, I'm not going to say massive, I'm going to say it's plentiful, it's bountiful. There's a lot to do in Anime Adventures. And if you're an Anime Tower Defense player who was desperately yearning for a new TD to come out, maybe you don't like the current selection that we have, this is perfect for you. Because now you have a pretty well fleshed out Anime Tower Defense game that has a lot of content for you to cover. But I can also see how some people might be disenfranchised, they might be disappointed with the release of the game and how the models aren't that good, because a big appeal of the Anime Tower Defense genre is that it has to look like the anime characters. That's kind of the point of the game. But like I said, the sooner we accept the fact that, you know, infringing on IP laws is just not something that AA can get away with, the sooner that you make your peace with that, I think the sooner you'll start enjoying the game for what it is. And that is going to wrap up my segment for was AA worth the wait. Now I want to move on to the second part of the video, which I think ties into the first question. What would I do to improve the game? What are some quality of life things that I would like to see in Anime Adventures to make them be able to compete with current day Anime Tower Defense games? I don't know why my brain was drawing a blank there, my bad. Because as it stands, this game is still incredibly well made. Graphics look good, VFX look good, game feels very fluid to play, it's fun to play, the gameplay loop is rewarding, but it's still far from perfect. There are still a lot of things that this game is lacking on the quality of life end, and that's something that I'd like to shed some light on, and let's talk about that. Number one, 2x speed. Does this game need a 2x speed modifier to make the gameplay more fun? Because as it stands, this game is definitely on the longer end of things. Nowadays, most of us are used to stages taking maybe 6, 7 minutes at most, maybe 8, just a normal stage. On average, you will be spending about 10 minutes doing a story mode stage. I don't know how long doing like a daily challenge. But here's the thing, this game does feel pretty lengthy in comparison to other Anime Tower Defense games. Do I think that they necessarily need to add 2x speed? That would put their average amount of completion time for a stage at 5 minutes, 6 minutes, which I think is a pretty good number. Now, do I think that they need to do that? Not really. I think if they just made the stages take a little bit less time and made the units walk a little bit faster, you really don't need to implement 2x speed. I don't think that's a thing that's gonna make or break the game. I don't really think that it's one of those things that's absolutely necessary. But this next thing that I am going to talk about, I do think is necessary, and that is a better way to get rerolls. And I know when I say this, a lot of people are going to be hesitant to agree with me, because one big line of reasoning that I hear people saying is, if Anime Adventures gave away rerolls on the same level that Anime Vanguards did, it defeats the purpose of Unique, it's not going to feel as rewarding, and I really disagree with that way of thinking. Number one, if Unique really does become just a little bit more common, right? and the average player has a slightly better chance of obtaining it because the game isn't as blatantly pay to win as it is right now. Does that mean that you are going to start deleting all of your unique units because, oh, the exclusivity is just, it's not that rare anymore. Oh, I can't use this anymore. I hate this. Like, obviously you're not. You're still going to continue to go about your day playing with your units and using your unique traits that you already got. If rerolls were a little bit easier to get, that's not going to ruin unique. That's not going to make the unique trait worthless. People are still going to use it. They're still going to go for it. They're still going to have fun using unique units. Now, I know that making rerolls more easily obtainable is a very, very slippery slope. If we look at ALS, for example, they are at the point of no return. Right now, if you don't have Overlord Plus on your ALS units, they're basically unusable. No one's going to even bother touching them unless they have a super overpowered damage trait. And I know that that is the worst case scenario for a game like Anime Adventures. Why would they ever want to be in a world where unique is commonplace? And if you don't have unique on your unit, they're basically useless because the entire game is balanced around having a really, really strong damage trait like ALS is. Obviously, I don't want that to happen for Anime Adventures. I think that Anime Vanguard does this system very, very well because they give you free rerolls. Now, I'm not saying I want Anime Adventures to give as much free rerolls as Anime Vanguards does. I know a lot of people would be hesitant to that as well, but I really, really think this game could use easier ways for free-to-play players to farm rerolls, to get rerolls, so they might actually have a fighting chance of getting a unique. Because even if the game became just a little bit more free-to-play friendly, this isn't all of a sudden going to make it so the top leaderboard players no longer are going to be sitting at the top, right? They're going to think that all the money that they spent is wasted because now everything's just so much easier to get. That's really never going to be the case. I really, really think that we need to add some ways to make rerolls a little bit more obtainable for the average player. And if this was the case, I promise you a lot more people would enjoy this, a lot more people would have fun. I don't agree with the mindset that rerolls need to be super hard to get, and if rerolls are easier to get, it's just going to make all traits feel worthless, and you don't know how it was back in the day, in the OG days. Like, bro, we need to acknowledge the Anime Adventures, as good as it was and as good as it is now, has to do some internal changes in order to be as enjoyable as the current day anime tower defense games. And that includes quality of life things like making rerolls a little bit easier to get, having a unit manager, showing max range on placement. These are some quality of life features that I feel this game could absolutely use, and it would be very, very good for them. This video is already getting a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, so let's just cut to our closing thoughts. Number one, was AA worth the wait? Overall, I'd say it is. Solely on the fact that if you are a returning player, you're going to enjoy it. If you are a new player, you are going to enjoy it. Second thing, what are some quality of life things that I really think this game could use? Number one, maybe make the stages a little bit shorter. The game feels very, very drawn out right now, and that might just be my brain that's turned into mush because I'm used to 2 and 3x speed and shorter stages. I've been conditioned to that by basically every other anime tower defense game that's currently out right now, but I really think this game could use stages that are a little bit faster. Maybe add 2x speed, maybe don't. If you're not going to add 2x speed, then just make the stages like maybe 50% faster. Actually, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but if the units walked a little bit faster, that'd be nice. Next thing, other quality of life changes I'd like to see: unit manager, show max range on placement, and make rerolls a little bit easier to get for free-to-play players. I'm not saying that it needs to be on the same level as ALS, where you can set up a macro, go to sleep, and get 200 rerolls when you wake up. No, that is a very extreme end of the spectrum that I don't want this game to end up on, but I think Anime Vanguards does it very, very well. They give players free rerolls, but they don't give them so many that Monarch becomes worthless. Monarch is still incredibly rare, it is still incredibly good. I have been playing Anime Vanguard since release, and I still do not have a single Monarch unit. And I know that might just be me getting unlucky, but what I'm trying to say is that if someone like me, who has played this game a lot and has grinded this game a lot, gotten all of the free rerolls that they've been able to give out, and I still don't have a full inventory of Monarch units, that goes to show that giving free rerolls to your players isn't going to ruin the rarity of traits. It's not going to ruin that power fantasy that you have of having extremely strong units that can do 1,000,000 damage when you max them out. it only serves to benefit the player base because it makes them happy. It makes them have something to grind for. It makes the game feel more rewarding. And that's why I really think that there should be some avenues of getting more free-to-play rerolls. But let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with anything that I've said in this video. That is going to be the end from me. Have a great day or night wherever you are. Stay tuned for more content, and we'll catch you in the next one.